Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Welsh Esports League, brought to you by Apprenticeships Wales. We are here for the fifth and sixth round of the F1 split, and today we are going to Portugal up first. I am Ivan Mike, going to be taking you through the action, and joined alongside with me is Mr. Obliterator. How are you doing, mate?
Doing fine, thank you very much. If the first 2 weeks of this esports league are anything to go by, I am looking forward to some great action again tonight.
Absolutely, and of course, looking at the standings after the first four races, it is the Robins that lead the way, and they are leading the way by some considerable margin, based on the fact they got a 1-2 finish last time out in Singapore. And of course, they are leading the way on 88 points, and in behind them we have the Pit Ponies on 71, the Dragons in third on 68, with the Artists creeping up behind them on 63. Then a very close battle between the Pirates on 49 in fifth place and the Swans on 48 in sixth. The Puffins down in seventh on 18 points, and the Goats looking to have a strong end to the split, currently down in eighth place on 2 points. And looking at the team standings, it's very close, especially in that midfield, isn't it, Obliterator?
It is intensely close. Every team still has a chance of taking this championship. I mean, you're looking down the order, 88 points to 49 or 48. That can change in one race. If one team pulls out a 1-2, gets a fast lap as well, or get very good positioning over both races tonight, they can shoot their way to the top of the standings with absolutely no problems whatsoever. So no team is out of this yet, and it is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, not only is it the team standings, but also you got to look at the driver standings with an Armed leading the way. He is currently on 67 points. And in second place, we have PW Jones for the Artists on 63 points in second place. Evans Joshua with that second place. Last time out, he has climbed up to third in the standings on 56 points. Ethan Ed on 49 points in fourth. Then in fifth and sixth, both on 39 points, we have Jay Fatality with two fantastic performances last time out, and Colin in sixth, who had a bit of a nightmare weekend and dropped us with that fantastic win in Singapore, climbs himself up to seventh. And obviously, looking at the first half, it is definitely getting very close at the top, as I believe we are about to jump into qualifying. So we shall jump on into qualifying, but it's getting very close amongst these drivers, isn't it, Obliterator?
It's getting remarkably close. And the thing right now about these middle races of the season, consistency. You've got to rack up those points. You've got to make sure that you're consistent, not making any errors. One DNF in any of these races can ruin your season.
Yeah, and that is a fact. And obviously, fantastic tonight to see that we do have all the drivers represented here tonight. And obviously, we have to bring up the Fulston, who is coming in as a sub for the Swans, replacing Key Swan here tonight. So he's going to be looking to put some good points on the board for the Swans. Of course, they're in a very close battle with the Pirates, as previously mentioned. And it'll be interesting to see how Fulston gets on against these drivers.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. We haven't seen him before, so we do not know what to expect from him. But if he can string a couple of results together here, if he can make sure that he keeps it clean, nice and tidy, he can pick up some valuable points for the Swans and the Constructors in the team's championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first man who is out on track, I believe, is Ethan Ed. And see, he's going to be a man looking to take his second win of the split altogether. And obviously, he got a nice win in Belgium. Since then, he's been floating around the podium. And that's the thing with a lot of these drivers. I think we have 8 drivers here tonight that are podium and race winning pace.
And that just makes it incredibly exciting for us to watch. Each of these drivers is going to be giving 100%. And with that, or those 8 drivers, as you said, that could potentially be podium, maybe even race winners. It's going to be so close, and the finest margins around this track are going to make sure that we have clinical racing from all of them.
Yep, as Ethan Ed's about to get us underway, so I'll jump on board and we'll have a look at a lap with Ethan Ed here as he is running down towards turn 1, but he hasn't validated. As who else have we got on a lap right now? As
Manic Mechanic is about to start his, I believe, so we're going to ride on board with him coming down towards the first corner. So let's see what he can put in.
Yep, as he comes down into turn 1, a very difficult corner indeed, because you can always drift out too wide and pick up an invalidation there, but Manic Mechanic, nice, cool, calm, collected, making sure he does get a lap on the board as he climbs up the hill and opens DRS on the run down now into the hairpin, and this will be a key overtaking opportunity down in towards that hairpin and on the exit, and now into the heart of the middle sector. These 2 corners by here, so tricky because you got to swoop the car around and you got to get it slowed down and climb the hill, and the camber of the corner really does throw the car completely off balance.
Yeah, the oscillation on this track going around the corners, you know, the camber, each different corner is going to be absolutely ridiculous to handle. These tyres towards this part of the lap are going to be screaming, but it's making sure that you've saved enough for these last 2 corners, especially to get the traction as we head down towards the pit straight once again.
Yeah, as we wait to see what the lap time is, it's going to be J Fatality who's taken the provisional pole position so far with a 17.8. We'll see what Manic Mechanic can do. Of course, Manic Mechanic, one of the drivers who unfortunately hasn't got a point so far, but will tonight be his night as he pops over the line. As it's immediately popped down into third, because Evans Joshua has popped up on provisional pole and he goes just over 100th of a second quicker than J Fatality.
Well, if that gap is going to keep on going throughout the night, it's going to be incredibly tight, not only for pole but during the race. 100th of a second across a lap like this is absolutely nothing. It's just the slightest touch on the brake too early, or maybe getting a little bit of traction out of a corner. But if it's going to be this close, we are going to have one hell of a session here.
Yep, that is 100% true indeed. And see, looking at some of the other times that have come in, we got a few times that have come in. Obviously Elder on an 18 flat, Colonel Mason on an 18 flat, an 18.6 for Mumford Place, Hookie on a 19.4, Folson on a 19.7, as I believe they've just been dropped down because Drofters goes up into P5 on an 18.1, and obviously Manic Mechanic the 9th person set at a time so far, and we shall see who is going to be able to really get these laps hooked up together, because it is so crucial to get a lap early on in the session.
It is indeed. You never know what can happen on your second or third run. The yellow flag could absolutely ruin a lap time that you're on, and what we're looking for here, some people will go for sighter laps, some people will go for banker laps, some people will go flat out from the start. And I'm not taking anything for granted after last week's qualifying, because we saw right at the death people coming in with laps that were out of this world. So I am not going to hold my breath and say that these times are going to stay the same right now.
Yeah, these times will change, they will fluctuate, and we will see improvements. But obviously, looking at the clouds above as well, it is looking very overcast indeed. So I'm wondering if we're going to see any spits of rain going on out there on the track towards the end of the session.
And that is why, as you said, it is so important to get a lap in early on. If the rain does start to come down, then the times are not going to be as quick. So where you get this lap time in early, how hard you push, might determine your position on the grid. And we could see a very interesting grid from that. If people haven't pushed so hard in their first lap, we could have a few cars out of position, which will mean plenty of overtaking at the opening stages of the race.
Yep, and that is 100% what can definitely happen. Obviously, with a lot of guys pushing the absolute limits of this track, mistakes are easy to come by, especially here at Portimao, as I believe Ethan Ed is out on track, PW Jones out on track right now, unarmed. Now let's talk about unarmed a second, because unarmed is a guy who has been on fine form. The only person to pick up 2 wins so far in this championship, and he's doing it for the Dragons. As PW Jones goes up into provisional pole, 4 thousandths of a second quicker than Evans Joshua at the top.
I mean, we've got to talk, as you said, we've got to talk about Cian Arms. His consistency throughout this championship so far has been incredible. To be top of the drivers' standings is a testament to how well he is driving. But PW Jones popping in that lap right there, as you said, 4 thousandths of a second. I didn't think we'd get down to those margins. I thought the hundredths would have been enough. But just to make it even closer at the top, PW Jones slamming in an incredible lap time and just showing how competitive this league actually is.
Yeah, as he does have bit of traffic to contend with here. Was unarmed, but was able to navigate it well into the line. Unarmed will cross to go up into P8. And obviously, as we were mentioning with unarmed, the only mistake really that we've seen from him so far in this tournament was the mistake at Belgium, where he unfortunately pitted from a set of mediums for another set of mediums and was forced to make a second pit stop. In that race, so he did have race winning pace, but he just had to make that extra pit stop. So apart from that, he's had a perfect championship so far. And to be fair, the guy who is hunting him down, he is the guy who's on provisional pole right now, PW Jones. I tell you what, Mr. Consistency, you want to start? Here's a start. PW Jones, 4 races, 4 podiums.
But that is phenomenal driving, especially to avoid a lot of chaos as well. We know how easy it is to drop a car on any specific corner, to avoid contacts, but to be able to put that car on the podium 4 times is a testament to him, not only as a driver, but to his racecraft as well.
Yes, absolutely, as PW Jones is showing what consistency can get you, because he's only 4 points off the back of Unarmed, and we know how good Unarmed has been so far in this tournament, and PW Jones is right there with him.
He is, and the big thing is now, if Manic Mechanic can get a couple of races together and push forward, he can join PW Jones in that battle for the artists in pushing for the team's title as well. So there's a lot at stake here for all the teams, but specifically, I believe if the artists push on, they can be contenders for that title for sure.
I mean, not just the artists, I mean the Dragons as well, as what's called Mumford plays. Obviously, he missed out the 2 races last time out, where of course we saw a victory for Unarmed in France, and then I believe it was a P4 in the end at Singapore. But Mumford plays, much like Manic Mechanic, can really propel the Dragons as well as the artists into a team championship fight.
And that's the wonderful thing about F1. It's not just an individual driver's game, it's a team game. If one of these drivers can sling it together for each other, if you have Mumford Place, if he can put it together on Manic Mechanic, we could be looking at not only the team title going home to one of the teams, we could be looking at the driver's title going home to one of the teams. And imagine the bragging rights that team would have to take both honours in the opening season.
Yeah, and that is what everyone is fighting for. Obviously, as it currently stands, I mean, the Robins have looked to be the strongest pairing so far in terms of raw pace, because both drivers have been shown capable of podium and race winning pace. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone else will be able to measure up. I mean, we've seen Ethan Ed take a victory, we've seen Unarmed take 2 victories, we've seen Drofters take a victory. Will we see a 4th different victor here tonight, or maybe even the 5th? Can we get 5 winners here in 6 races?
I mean, it would be fantastic if we could see another 2 winners. But at this point of the season, 25 points are great, but you've got to look at the people at the top of the championship now, like Cian Armed, PW Jones, Evans Joshua. What they're going to be looking for is consistent points, keeping their nose clean, making sure they bring it home, because any incident that drops them down the points could have catastrophic repercussions for them when it comes to the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, as we're on board with Unarmed, I believe he's just about to get himself underway, so we'll stay on board with Unarmed for a full lap here in qualifying, and we'll see how he gets on as he opens up TRS to get himself underway. He's currently down in P8. He's not too far off pole, only needs an extra 4.5 tenths. And around this track, the track evolution is real around here. There's going to be more grip towards the end of the session, so we definitely should be seeing times getting quicker and quicker the deeper into qualifying that we go.
We should indeed, and we're looking at Cian Arm now, and he's keeping it nice and clean. Beautiful braking points. See the traction coming out of the corner. That is looking all good. As we're coming up towards, I believe, the most difficult section of the track now. Hooking this part of the lap up, keeping it nice and clean is going to be pivotal. Look at the way the track bends, it turns up and down. It is an absolute nightmare to make sure that you're on your line constantly. But Cian Arm keeping it very tidy right now. And we're looking now down towards Craig Jones and Portimao. Coming up towards the last sector now. Let's see if the tyres have still got it in them. Turning it in nice and tight, making sure the car just rolls out of the corner as we approach the final 2 turns now. Early in, get the power down as hard as you can as the car spins to his left hand side. It doesn't seem to have distracted him too much. Slinging it round the final corner at Galp, ready for the DRS, pedal to the metal. What lines does he take? Straight on the racing lines. He comes over the line. And that is a 17.541. Now that is a benchmark. Nearly 3/10 clear of PW Jones. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody else has got now.
Now that is a massive improvement there from Unarmed. As see Colin R. Mason out on track right now, and he's going to be looking at that time thinking, okay, half a second, that's what I got to gain. Now I can see what I got to do.
A massive benchmark to throw down, and as it was last week, a mental game to see who has the composure to bring home a lap. Hopefully being able to beat Cian Armed in their mind. But it's going to be very difficult not to have that time nagging in the back of your head.
Yeah, that time could definitely play a factor in people's minds, especially when they have a little glance at the delta just to see how much they're up by, because everyone does it. They have a little peak and they lose concentration by having a little peak. So let's hope these guys stay focused as Colin is going to start his next flying lap, currently down in P7 on an 18 flat as he comes down in towards turn number 1 and through turn 2, and then breaking down third gear for turn number 3 as we climb up the hill, as we go a little bit off camber towards the top of the hill through turn 4, DRS wide open on the run down into the hairpin of turn 5, third gear again, and that's good for the traction coming out of the hairpin. As you see, the short shifting as Cam Rolls is out of the session now through turns 7 and breaking down hard, making sure you get the rotation to come up the hill through turn 8. You see he's holding it in 4th gear there. That is for the traction, because as previously said, the camber on that corner can really throw people off as we go into turn number 11 now. And Colin R. Mason using everything he's got, and he's 5/10 up, so this is thereabouts with Unarmed as he just gets dragged a little bit wide there through turn 13, but if he can hook up the final 2 corners, this should be close, if not on par with Unarmed's time. As we go to the line now, what's this going to be for Colin R. Mason and the Pirates? It's going to be a provisional pole with a 17.5.
That was incredible. I got to admit, I was wincing at turn 13 when he ran a little bit wide, but it doesn't look like it's affected him too much. A 17.50, only 0.04 of a second faster than Unarmed. I mean, this is going to be incredibly close. I'm loving watching this.
Yeah, and I'm very intrigued to see what's gonna happen in this race, because a lot of things can happen, and one thing that could happen here tonight, and here's another little start, and I've been doing some starts over the weekend, everyone, so hopefully you guys will be enjoying this as Larry Wheels improves and goes up into P14. That was an 8/10 improvement there from Larry Wheels. But in the 4 races we've had so far, there have been 4 different people on pole position. Could we see a 5th consecutive pole position here, different pole position sitter? Or will we see our first ever 2-time pole sitter?
That's what we love about F1. It's so unpredictable. We could very well see a new pole sitter. Right now, Colin R. Mason sat at the top, Unarmed, and PW Jones hot on his tail. Have they got time? They're on out laps. So Colin R. Mason has put his last lap in for the session. So it's now down to Cian Arm, PW Jones, and the rest of the fields to see if they can pip him for the top spot going into the race.
Yeah, PW Jones, Evan Joshua, J Fatality, Elder, they need a 3/10 improvement at the minimum to try and steal pole position away from Colin. Anand needs to find around about half a tenth. So we'll have to wait and see who is going to be leading out of these lot. I mean, I'm looking at it now. I think PW Jones is the guy who is the first out of these guys out on track. So hopefully you can see PW Jones coming through and see as he is approaching the Sector 1 split. He is marginally up in Sector 1, but he's going to need to find more time through Sector 2 and 3 if he wants to challenge Colin.
That first sector is a confidence builder note, though. He knows that he's faster in that first sector. Can he stick it together in Sector 2 and Sector 3, though? Being up in the first sector is great. Now you've got to get your head down. You've got to drive this lap as if you've never driven a lap of this track as quick in your life. You've got to make sure that you hit every apex, every braking point perfectly. Make sure that traction is on point, and hopefully by the end of the lap your delta will be purple.
And unfortunately in the middle sector, PW Jones' delta is not purple. He's down. He lost a tenth in the middle sector, so he needs to pull it back through the final sector if he's looking for any major improvements. We'll see if he's going to find any as we go through the final corner, and to the line will come PW Jones. Is it going to be an improvement as Falstone as retired? And it's a marginal improvement, but I think that's beatable from the guys behind. Evans Joshua appears to be about a tenth up.
We're looking into the final sector now, keeping it nice and clean, floating that car to the outside once again, making sure you get a perfect line coming into the second to last corner. He's held it nice and tight, powers down nice and early. Let's see what he does. He comes around the last corner now, pushing towards that DRS. Which line does he take? He sticks it to the inside. Oh, he's put it in the pits.
He's bailed as we got J Fatality now next to the line, and he's going to do a 0.6 and jump us up into P3.
That is a great improvement for him. Every position on the grid does count. Oh, Elga's popped in. Elga's popped in with a 17.620, but look at the margins. You're looking at 500ths of a second between J Fatality and Elga there. That is absolutely nothing on an F1 track, but it decides the grid and it just puts you that little bit higher if you're Elga, which will mean he might be able to push on a different race strategy to the two leaders.
Yeah, as we got Ethan now, I think the last one to the line. He's on a lap and he's been marginally down, so no improvement there from Ethan, and that is that as PW Jones crosses the line, and that will bring an end to qualifying. Colin, our first two-time pole sitter.
A fantastic lap from Colin there. As I said, margin's so tight, only 400ths of a second, but he was able to hook that lap up just that little bit better. Congratulations to Colin on being the first two-time pole sitter in the Welsh Esports League F1 Championship.
Yeah, and we'll run you through the order. It is Colin R. Mason taking pole position with a 17.5. Just under 400ths of a second ahead of Unarmed, who will join him on the front row. Elder in third with J Fatality in fourth. PW Jones in fifth. Evans Joshua in sixth. Seventh is Ethan Ed. Mumford plays in eighth. Ninth for Drofter. Spliffing running at the top 10. Then we got Falston, Cam Rules, Hooky, Larry Wheels, Manic Mechanic, and Beef. Rounded out the rest of the grid outside of the top 10. Now, 17 laps of Portimao await these 16 drivers, and that's a lot of laps now for a 25% race. That's a lot of laps.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice. A genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis. Dewis doeth.
Okay. We are back and looking to get into the racing action here as the drivers are now picking their tyres, fixing their race strategies for Portimao, and now we get to see what kind of tyres everyone is opting for.
Soft to Colin R. Mason off the front there, waiting to see what everybody else is on, but I think that's a sound strategy for Colin R. Mason off the start. He needs to build that lead as quick as he can. Hopefully he can escape the DRS. But we're looking to see now through the field. Is that a pair of mediums on Unarmed there?
It is a pair of mediums on Unarmed.
Oh, that is going to be a bit of a risk off the start compared to the soft runners. We'll see how many there are around there. But to go medium off the start is very brave. Hopefully he can string it together. We're looking at him now trying to get those tyres warmed up. He's working them very aggressively.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do if you're on the harder compound tyre. You definitely need to get heat into those tyres ASAP, because you don't want cold tyres starting a lap in the race.
We do not, and we're looking at the split now down the grid. We've got Colin Mason on the soft and Armed on the mediums, and the following three drivers, Elder Fatality and PW Jones on the softs. Evans Joshua the next of the medium runners. So we're looking towards different strategies here, and Evans Joshua and Unarmed, if they can keep pace with these soft runners, they're going to put themselves in a very handy position for the second stint on the swap over.
Yep, they will. All they need to do though is stick with the soft runners early on. As I believe I just saw a car go absolutely flying off the track there, and I think that was actually Unarmed.
It was trying to warm up his tyres a little bit too hard coming out of the second to last corner there, so he will reform the grid in second place, do not worry about that. But a little trip onto the grass there, will that have an effect on the temperature of his tyres? Maybe they've overheated on that spin.
Potentially, and obviously the one thing that you don't really want as well is a bit of grass on your tyres.
No, it's very unusual on a warm-up lap to see a car turn into a lawnmower there, but we do have him back on the grid. He has lined up back in second place, and as we see now, those DSQs will disappear before the start of the race. Hopefully. There we are, they're back into it.
Yeah, as we go to those 5 red lights. Lights out and we are underway. Beef gets a drive-through penalty for jumping the start of the race, and absolute calamities there as we got Unarmed going side by side as Colin losing it off the start. PW Jones and J Fatality getting a little bit mixy. Unarmed now losing spots and going down the order. What is going on at the start? There's absolute chaos in turn 1 and 2.
Colin Mason had a very poor start there. He seemed like he got bogged down in the second phase. Unarmed did it really well. He got the line really cleanly, but he went wide at the exit of turn 1, and that has cost him some positions there. The action is incredible.
As J Fatality there just absolutely centered down the inside on and armed here, and these soft tyres are absolutely flying at the start of this race, and you can see Unarmed is getting absolutely swamped.
You can see the grip level difference. Unarmed, he is trying his best to keep pace with those at the front, but now is the time that those tyres at the front, those soft runners, are going to have to push away from Unarmed. He's had a bad start. He's going to look to regain his composure very quickly. Oh, we've got a spinner there. Is that Larry Wheels has gone around at the end of Portimao turn 10? And Hooky as well. Oh, that's a disaster for both of them. Hopefully they can get their heads back in the game. The race is not over. There is still time to be made, and we've always got the possibility of a safety car, so they are not out of this yet.
Absolutely not. There's always a chance. As long as you stay in the race, there's always a chance. As Colin looking to pull away from Elder, he's got the gap to almost 9/10 of a second. As we see Fulston, who has just gone around. As Larry Wheels has come into the pits and I believe retired from the session, and that has triggered a virtual safety car.
Yeah, we're looking at 2 of the 3 that did spin there. They are on those medium tyres. Maybe they didn't get the warm-up right. Maybe the grip isn't there yet. But the soft runners off the start looked phenomenal. Elder and Fatality jumping Unarmed at this point is huge. And look at that gap there between Elder and Fatality. It's 1.3 seconds. Of course, we'll see how it shakes out after the VSC. But if that gap does stay above a second, then we're heading into that DRS point now. So for that first DRS straight, Unarmed will have a look at Fatality, hopefully.
Yeah, and I have to apologise. It wasn't in the pits with Larry Wheels, unfortunately, DNF. It was on the final corner. I believe the person I saw in the pits was Beef. So Larry Wheels didn't retire in the pits. He unfortunately crashed out through the final corner. And I mean, he's got another crack when we go to what's called Austria. So he's not completely out of it. You can definitely get something out of tonight.
Oh, definitely not. Every race is up for grabs in this championship. Larry was a little bit unlucky there. Maybe he thought that the safety car probability wasn't that high and he was out of it. But, you know, looking at Beef now, he is 11 seconds behind. He can make that gap up. It's very simple. Where is Spiffing in the field? He is P10.
P10, and he just picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding on the virtual safety car restart. And that is one thing that you don't really want to do. You need to time it perfectly. You need to give yourself a nice gap, stay in the green. Don't get too close to going into the red on the restart, because that can happen very easy.
And I think the reason we saw Beef dive into the pits when he did, especially very clever under the VSC, very clever indeed. He had that drive-through penalty for the jump start. He has served that, and he has not lost as much time to Hooky and the rest of them as he thought he would.
Unfortunately, under virtual safety cars and safety cars, you can't save a drive-through penalty. So I think he was already in the pit lane serving it when the virtual safety car came out. So I don't think it affected him.
It's a bit clever though. Good timing, good blessings, whatever he had when that VSC came out. He's not dropped too far behind the rest of the pack. Whether it was intentional, he wouldn't have known that there was a spinner. So, a little bit of blessing with the time there. So he hasn't dropped too far behind the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and on board right now with the battle for P8, as it looks like Manfred Plays is losing a bit of time to the guys up ahead of him. As Dropdust begin to put down the pressure, Spliffin now coming into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty. He's picked up a 5 second for speeding in the pit lane as well. It's gone from bad to worse for Spliffin.
That is an absolute disaster. You're coming in to serve one penalty, you accidentally pick up another. That is his race ruined, unfortunately. But, little errors like that define your race, can define your attitude towards the race. And unfortunately for Spiffing, that is a disaster.
Yeah, absolute disaster, because not only did he have to serve that drive-through, which means he's going to be quite a distance behind the rest of the pack. Obviously, Beef being 9.3, 9.1 seconds behind Hooky ahead of him in P13. You see Spliffing on the back. But also, when he comes into the pits, he will have to serve that 5 second time penalty, so he'll drop an extra 5 seconds back. So he's like 14 seconds off the back of Hooky.
Yeah, it's not great for him, is it? I've been keeping an eye on this battle up the front, and Cian Armed is doing so very well right now to stay within touch with J Fatality, with the DRS as well, but those tyres are only going to start getting better for him as J Fatalities and Elders, and even Colin R. Mason start to get worse. So Cian Armed has done a very good job off the start of the race to make sure that he's still within that DRS zone, and to make sure that he's still got a great chance of winning this race.
Yeah, but he's got PW Jones all over the back of him, and he's just set the fastest lap, but he's going for the move, and he's going to use DRS to pull through and ahead of Anam. So we mentioned Anam doing a very good job. PW Jones taking P4 off the man racing for the Dragon's hands.
That was a textbook overtake on this track, if you want to call it a textbook overtake. Made sure he got the slipstream coming out of the last corner, activated his DRS and just breezed by Unarmed. Now is the critical phase. Can he get up to J Fatality? Can he bridge that gap in this second sector going towards the last? It's going to be vital that he does to keep that DRS, because otherwise we'll be looking at C Unarmed potentially with a good run off that last corner, making that switch back. Oh, a little bit of latency issues there, but to keep him going. And it looks like PW Jones has lost a little bit of time. Oh, sorry, C Unarmed has lost a little bit of time because of that. But look at the gaps in this field. 0.3 of a second, 0.2 of a second, 0.5. The gaps are so close. Everybody is still in with a shout of winning this race.
Yeah, and looking at the gap at the front, it looks like Colin, towards the end of this stint, is starting to put a bit of pace on, because he is starting to pull away from Elder. But with DRS, Elder will absolutely fly back towards us. Colin's peeled off. He's into the pits.
That's a very brave move. He's gone a lap earlier than everybody else potentially, so he's going to be looking to use those tyres for the undercuts to make sure that he gets out a little bit further ahead. But down the end stretch of this race, his tyres will be just that one lap older. So will that have an effect? Will he be able to manage those tyres that little bit extra, take extra care of them to make sure that they reach the end of the race?
I can't lie. I just saw it pop up on the timetable. Evans Joshua has managed to get past Unarmed. They're both on the same strategy as well, both on the medium compound tyres, and Evans Joshua now the lead medium runner.
We also saw J Fatality come into the pits there, but Evans Joshua is doing a fantastic job, just climbing the field, keeping his pace nice and steady consistently, and he is still within that DRS range, crucially, of PW Jones. As we see these corners, each corner now towards the last corner will be vital for the DRS. He has just slipped outside that window, but one little error on the brake from PW Jones will allow Evans Joshua straight back in.
Yeah, and what we have in second, third and fourth is first, second and third in the Drivers' Championship. So these three battling out on track for position and for points in this championship, and also for their teams as well, as I believe. Obviously the pit ponies are currently second. Ethan is right there behind them as well, obviously representing the pit ponies. The top four teams all in that little scrap as well.
I mean, if you want action, this is the place to get it. We're looking up ahead now. We're looking at CNR right on the back of Evans Joshua as PW Jones dove into the pits. We're going to see where he comes out relative to the rest now. Colin R. Mason coming around the final corner, I believe. We're going to see where PW Jones does come out. Has he jumped Colin R. Mason there in the pit stops? No,
just about ahead.
Oh, and Elders just pipped ahead of PW Jones once again. Mumford with a 5-second time penalty there for, I believe, corner cutting. It's looking very feisty in that battle as all those runners now are on the same tyres again.
Yeah, the thing obviously, the benefit that for Colin and Jake Vitality right now is Jake Vitality and PW Jones are side by side. I think a little bit of a desync issue going on there between those two. I don't think they were where each other thought they were on track, but the issue for PW Jones and Elder, of course, they went a lap longer on those on those soft tyres before switching on to the mediums, and you can tell because Colin and Jay Fatality, their tyres already warmed up, and they have so much more grip.
Yeah, they have pulled out that gap quite well. Elder has dropped quite a considerable amount behind Colin R. Mason during that pit stop phase. I believe he lost about 0.8 of a second. So whether there was a little bit of caution going into the pit lane, maybe his tyres weren't up to speed yet. Obviously, he did pit the lap later, so he's still trying to get a little bit of knowledge on those tyres, where his braking zones are, what he can do. As Colin R. Mason posts the fastest lap of a 20.203.
An arm that just tried to have a little peek on Evans Joshua. The top battle is getting a little bit spicy between two championship rivals, and of course two guys battling out for the team championship as well as drivers. So it's getting a little bit tasty. Obviously got Drofters there in P5. He's on the back of Mumford Place, who's on the back of Ethan Ed, who's on the back of Renam, who's on the back of Evans Joshua. Try saying that 5 times fast.
I would not even dare. You've done remarkably well to get that all in one, to be honest with you. But we're looking at Ethan Ed, still on those soft tyres. He is looking to put himself into a great position with the mediums. Obviously, relative time dropped to those behind him on the fresher tyres now. We'll see towards the end of the race how he can utilise the fresher medium tyres, because he has pulled out a remarkable stint of 7 laps, and he's not lost pace compared to the medium runners now, where you think the crossover would be a little bit more prevalent.
Yeah, as Ethan Ed is now into the pit, so we're going to see now where he comes up relative to the likes of PW Jones, Jake Vitality, Elder and Colin R. Mason. I think he'll be around about a second behind PW Jones, but we'll have to wait and see as they are coming through the final corner. But an arm getting the move done, and he's back up ahead of Evans Joshua. Colin R. Mason setting another fastest lap. He's going quicker and quicker, so is PW Jones. And for Unarmed and Evans Joshua, they're looking at these times thinking, yep, they're coming for us.
They are definitely hunting them down right now, so we've got to keep an eye on those intervals. But not forgetting that these people at the front, CNR and Evans Joshua Drofters, they're going to have the soft tyre, and with the fuel load coming down every single lap, they're going to be able to run faster and faster on those soft tyres. So a couple of laps will look like qualifying laps for them towards the end of the race if they can keep their tyres fresh. So their pace is going to be astonishingly quicker than those on the medium tyre.
Yeah, but of course they still have to get past those guys on the medium tyres, so it's not going to be easy. And especially when you look at the fact that Elder, Jay Fataldi and PW Jones are in a little bit of a train with each other. They're all in DRS of each other. Colin has broken away by about 2 seconds up ahead of Elder, but these three guys, they have DRS, and it's not going to be easy for people on soft tyres to have their way through.
Definitely not. We've seen this so many times in esports and in real life. This DRS train can halt your progress if you're on an alternate strategy. No matter how fast your car is, no matter how fast your tyres are, if you get stuck in that DRS train where everybody's getting the benefit of that drag reduction system, then your tyres will be null and void, and you'll be burning your own tyres up stuck behind these guys. So it can be quite detrimental if your strategy does not work out exactly how you need it to.
Yeah, and obviously the dirty air effect on this track as well can also play a factor, as you mentioned, with the tyres getting worn out. Having that dirty air, just putting extra heat into those tyres, wearing them out even more and possibly overheating the tyres is not what these guys want. They want to keep them in a nice temperature window, so I wouldn't be surprised if pretty soon as we see Jay Fatality having a little bit of a wobble there, possibly needs to step out of the slipstream of Elder up ahead, just cool the tyres down a little bit.
That's going to be vital. Right now, Elder is sitting pretty with his tyres. He's making those tyres work for him. Behind, you've got J Fatality, PW Jones. They're so close to each other. Those tyres are going to be working doubly hard to make sure that not only do they stay in contact with Elder, but they've got to make sure as well that they're looking after the tyres, protecting them, using the DRS zones to their maximum so they can protect their tyres. As you said, maybe get out of the slipstream just the tiniest bit when they get DRS. Let the car do the work rather than the tyres.
Well, I've just seen it pop up. Evans, Joshua and Drofters both came into the pits at the same time, and both of them picking up 5-second speeding penalties into the pits.
It is a disaster as it was earlier on in the race. Now is not the time that you need to be picking up a time penalty. You know you're at the top end of the field, you've got the better tyres. That is going to be detrimental to their finishing position, so we'll see how they are able to...
Sorry, Ethan Ed splits the two Robbins drivers on the pit exit, and he might be able to get past Drofters here with the warmer tyres, and he's going to go swooping around the outside, and he gets it done. Mumford Plays also overtaken unarmed, who I believe has made a mistake somewhere, and he has lost a lot of time.
He has indeed, 3.2 seconds down 3.3. He's dropping a lot of time now. It would be interesting to see if he might have any front wing damage. I don't think he does, but he does look like he has recovered a little bit. Maybe he'll be into the pits this lap to do the swap over, because we are getting into that range now where the mediums will be wearing off. It's time for the soft tyres. For those drivers at the front, it is going to be hammer time, but seeing Armed dropping that car is going to lead him further down the pack than he wanted to be on this strategy.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier with the soft tyres versus the mediums, it's all good, but you have to get past the medium runners, and we're seeing Drofters having a little bit of a tough time getting past Ethan Ed here.
We are. We're looking now, the DRS is now going to get opened as we come around this final corner. We're going to see he's going to stay in the slipstream. He's always edging out of the slipstream. This is really cool. Getting close now as he opens the DRS wide open, and Drofters.
And here comes Evans Joshua as well. And he's going to go for the double overtake.
And the pit lane exit as well. Oh, that was phenomenal action. You never...
Evans down the inside of Mumford here. Fantastic stuff as Hookie's retired from the race, and that's heartbreaking for the Pirates. Hookie out of this race, Drofters around the outside of Mumford Place. It's all kicking off here. Ethan Ed around the outside of Mumford Place, and Mumford trying to outbrake Ethan Ed into the hairpin. Can he get it done? He squeezes him off track, and Mumford able to hold on to P7, but my god, Mumford comes out of the pits and he gets immediately swamped with the drivers around him.
That was incredible action, and the Robins have taken full advantage of that. Not only did they gain the place on Ethan Ed, I don't think they were expecting Mumford Place to be coming out of the pits, so they've made a double pickup position there, and that is great work for the Robins and wholly important for the team title battle. See if they can push on now.
Yeah, and they need to do that now. Obviously unarmed, we saw had a bit of a moment, a bit of a mistake, and he's down in P9. He's come out of the pits and he's 2.5 seconds off the back of Ethan Ed here.
That gap, he's going to start closing that gap very, very quickly indeed. We're keeping an eye on the front battle as well. Elder's managed to get it down to 1.3 seconds. It was 1.8, so he is closing that gap very quickly on Mumford. On Colin Mason, sorry. It's down to 1.0 seconds now, and he has got J Fatality and PW Jones on his tail as well. So the battle for the lead is hotting up, and not forgetting these soft tyres are going to come towards the end of the race. These drivers are going to get closer and closer. Unfortunately, they do have time penalties, but it's now how many points that they can pick up.
Yeah, for Evans and Drofters is breaking away from Mumford and trying to pull a big enough gap that they can keep a hold of P5 and P6. Obviously 5 seconds, a Herculean task, but if they're able to do it, it'll be a fantastic job done for those two.
Oh, incredibly well done for them too if they do manage to do that, and it will be hugely important. It's important for them now not to go battling each other. We would want to see that on track, but if they want to maximise team points for the team, they've got to work together, maybe even DRS train each other, one swapping over with the other, just to make sure they pull that 5-second gap out, because if they don't, then it will damage their finish position, as now we are on board with J Fatality coming down the front straight, DRS wide open. I do not believe Elder has DRS, he doesn't, but here we go, PW Jones behind him as well. Evans Joshua fastest lap.
Not close enough for J Fatality. Evans Joshua with the fastest lap, but you can see the flashing red light on Elder's car. That means he has less than 10% ERS. That is going to be a beacon for J Fatality to use his ERS to try and get the overtake down the main straight. But Elder closing back in on Colin R. Mason. So I'm wondering if he's running a lower drag setup here.
It is very potentially possible. We're looking at Elder now. That gap of 1.8 seconds did seem a bit insurmountable at times, but he has dragged it back very well. And not only is he bringing himself into contention, he's bringing J Fatality and PW Jones into the mix as well. And PW Jones, if he can maximise the DRS behind the two of these, or the three of these, he could pick up positions left, right and centre, and we're in for a very exciting final 3 laps of this race.
I mean, I can say it as it is right now. PW Jones, with the result as it currently stands, is looking to jump himself into the lead of the Drivers' Championship.
That would be a great result for him, especially considering the start that he had. I mean, you know, J Fatality up in front of him. Does he push now? Would your tactic be to push to get the positions, or knowing that you're in a great position and looking at the people around you in the championship, would you hold back and take the points, or would you go for it yourself?
What's that for, J Fatality?
I know, for PW Jones.
For PW Jones, I would probably save up a bit of ERS on this lap and just absolutely go for it on the next lap, because he does want to keep his 100% podium record, and he is right there in P4, almost on the podium once again. And also you can see J Fatality, he's getting close to Elder in this middle sector, and it's all about if Elder makes a mistake on the run down in towards the main straight. You see Colin Mason is getting away from Elder as well in this middle sector, so definitely it's looking like Elder potentially running a lower drag setup.
Yeah, PW Jones in the perfect position right now. If anything happens ahead of him, any spins, any small incidents between these drivers, he's in the perfect position to capitalise on it. All he's got to do is keep his nose clean, keep that foot planted to the floor on the accelerator, and hopefully there'll be some scraps for him at the end of the race if he can get past any of these drivers. As you said, looking to maintain that 100% podium record.
Yeah, as we see the red flashing light on Elder on the rear of that car, J Fatality closing in, but not closing in enough, and he's running out of lap share. We're on the penultimate lap 16 of 17 is absolutely thrown by. Collins still leading the way, Elder in second, J Fatality in third, PW Jones in fourth.
Yeah, I think the soft runners have left it a little too late to make a move as well. You see that gap isn't really closing down between PW Jones and Evans Joshua there, but the final 4 laps, the front 3 or 4, are separated by 2.3 seconds around that margin. That is remarkably close, and now we're looking at the DRS train, as we said earlier. Who can have enough battery power left to make a move? Who has that cutting edge to be able to make sure that they finish in a position that would benefit them in the championship? Every driver has the potential still to win this race.
Yeah, Spiffin picks up a 3-second time penalty, and honestly, Spiffin's another driver who has been very consistent so far this season. He's been constantly going through the points, getting the tail end of the points, but he's been constantly picking up points. This is the first race, I believe, where it looks like it'll just be out of his reach here tonight.
Yeah, we all have those tracks that we're not particularly fond of. Maybe Spliffing isn't exactly comfortable on this track, but the penalties have not helped him at all. But we do have that race in Austria where he can regain that consistency. One bad race does not define a championship. Always a wide there from Elder. We've got to keep this nice and clean final lap of the race.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see any late overtaking attempts here as CJ Fatality, and he is on the back of Elder, but just not close enough. You see Elder on the back of Colin as well. One mistake from any of these drivers and they're losing a position.
Oh, there could be more than one position. If you're looking at Colin R. Mason, he could lose all if he spins. That's all those positions gone, so we've got to keep it nice and clean. No DRS zones left now for the overtake. It's all about keeping that foot to the floor as that gap extends back out to almost 0.6 of a second. All he's got to do, drive his race, keep his head down, and he will take the race victory. I don't think there's enough chance of a slipstream coming out of the final corner, the final 2 corners, for him to lose his position. So he's just going to make sure he keeps it on the road.
Yep, and through the final 2 corners for the final time here in Portimao, it is going to be Colin R. Mason for the Pirates, taking victory here in Portimao, and is the 4th different winner that we've had here in the Welsh Esports League. Elder gets himself P2 as Jay Fatality comes across the line in P3. PW Jones, unfortunately, his podium record is now gone as he crosses the line in P4. Ethan Ed in P5. Unarmed will cross the line in P6. Evans Joshua, he did a good job, but it just wasn't enough to hold off, dropping down into P7. Mumford Plays in P8, dropped us in P9, and Cam Rules picking out that final point paying position. The fastest lap point does go to Unarmed in 6th place, so he's picking up 9 points for Unarmed, and PW Jones picking up 14, not 14, 12, so that's a 3-point gain for PW Jones going into the next race.
That is a huge momentum swing in the championship. Luckily for Unarmed, he was able to get that fastest lap to limit the damage done after a poor race. But that will shake the Drivers' Championship up, and it will, I believe, leave a 1-point gap between the pair.
Yep, 1 point between the pair of them going into the next race at Austria. But it is that man, Colin R. Mason, taking victory for the Pirates, and it's been a long time coming for Colin R. Mason. He's been close, he's gone to the podium once before, but this time he's on the top step of the podium, and it was thoroughly deserved. Fantastic pace throughout this race.
Fantastic drive, especially off pole. We saw him have that poor start, but the recovery was essential. He ran a very good race, clean, and he made the most of those tyres. He got the undercut at the pit stop phase, got in a lap earlier than everybody else, and make sure that he had that gap before the rest came in, and that was a fantastic race run by him.
Yeah, so we'll run you through one more time. There's Colin R. Mason, who takes victory ahead of Elder in 2nd, Jay Fatality in 3rd, PW Jones in 4th, Ethan Ed in 5th, Unarmed in 6th for the fastest lap, Evans Joshua in 7th, Muffler Plays in 8th, Loftus in 9th, and Cam Rules rounding out the top 10. Mark Mechanic in 11th, Spliffin in 12th, Fulston in 13th, Beef comes home in 14th, and then our 2 non-finishers tonight were Hooky and Larry Wheels. So that will draw an end to the first race here in Portugal, and the next race is going to be at Austria. But I believe before that we'll jump for a little intermission and possibly a word from our sponsors.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth.
Okay, guys, we are back for the second race of the evening. We are here at the Red Bull Ring. It is time for the Austrian Grand Prix here in Spielberg. And what a fantastic circuit to go racing at. Obliterator, this track has been so iconic on the F1 calendar since it came on. We've seen plenty of big moments in real life. But the one big thing that I always see about this track is the DRS trains. 3 DRS zones around here keeps the battling very close on track.
Yeah, unusual to have 3 DRS zones on one track, but we're going to look, it's such a short lap as well. You're looking around a 1 minute 5, 1 minute 6, maybe around that, maybe 1 minute 7. But it's going to be so tight. You know, the DRS zones are going to keep everybody together throughout the race. It's going to be one hell of a battle, and let's see who comes out on top in qualifying.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned the lap times there, but to be perfectly honest, I think we'll see lap times down in the 1 minute 4s here in qualifying. Potentially we could see someone sneak into the 1 minute 3s if someone does get an absolute blinder of a lap in. And I believe the first man out on track, if we can jump on board with him, I believe it is Larry Wheels. No, it's Spliffin, the first man out on track.
He's got to have a big session here after that race. He's got to have a very good session here, make sure he qualifies nice and high for as we come up towards the start-finish straight. DRS wide open, engaging that ERS, coming down to the first corner. Let's see the braking point, the 100 metre, just after the 100 metre board, nice and tidy through the first corner, leading on to the second DRS straight now, coming up the hill, up towards turn 3 at Remus, which will activate the third DRS zone of the lap. So let's see how he does come into the second sector. Was that a 18 we saw in the first sector there?
16.5 as DRS is opened once again on the run down in towards turn number 4. And this is a very favourite overtaking opportunity down in towards turn 4. A very good side-by-side action can be expected through that corner as we go through the kink of turn 5. Now into the double left-handers of turn number 6, where we get the middle sector split. And it's a 45.4 now through turn 7. As you see the car just stepping out on the Spliffin there, but he's kept it all together as we go through the kink of turn 8. Now into the penultimate corner, turn number 9. Not using all the track there so far from Spliffin, so he has got time there to find through the final corner, DRS wide open, and he'll cross the line to set the benchmark for a 1 minute 5.4.
Nice clean opening lap there. Just want to get one on the board, build your confidence, get to know the track a little bit better under these conditions. For a very solid opening gambit there from Spiffing.
Yeah, absolutely. As Evans Joshua there with a 5.1, immediately going 3 tenths quicker. Now, of course, around this track is such a short track, short in terms of time as well. If you can gain a tenth around here, that is bigger than what it is around many other tracks.
Yeah, a tenth on this track is a huge margin to find. A short lap, it's not going to be a lot of places where you can make up that time, but if you can find a different line, maybe even a slightly later break point in somebody, and you can get that car glued to the track, this can be huge in terms of qualifying, because the times are going to be so close again. So we're looking now from first now with Evans Joshua all the way down to fourth in Spiffing specifically. That's a 3/10 gap, and those times are going to tumble throughout the rest of this qualifying session. So let's see who can take advantage of that track perfectly.
I tell you what we usually see around a track like this in terms of taking advantage. We do see drivers who are not really in terms of raw pace a front runner, but we see they have the pace to stick in DRS and they capitalise. So this could be a huge opportunity for the likes of Mark Mechanic, for Folston, for Larry Wheels, for Beef, for Hooky, for Cam Rules. This could be a huge opportunity for them to score some points here today.
It could be indeed. We've seen PW Jones creep into the 1 minute 4, was the first of the drivers to do so. But as you said, every driver on this track, especially those who tends to be further down the grid, if they can hook a lap around here, they can put a spanner in the works of any of the front runners that would normally see there. It's going to be so tight. So these guys can really put in a performance. If they can get one lap together, they can really put the catamaran to pigeon when it comes to the race.
Yeah, and that is what these guys towards the lower end of the points are going to be looking to do. I mean, this is a huge track and a huge opportunity for every single driver out here to score big points. And we haven't really seen many drivers towards the back end be able to score big points. I mean, we've seen Spliffin get a P5 in Belgium, and I believe Keyswan getting a P6 in Monza, if I remember correctly, off the top of my head. So it has happened so far this season, but this is the best opportunity for someone to get some big points here.
Oh, it is a huge opportunity. You know, what you may lack in pace compared to others, the DRS zones, as we said earlier, they're so tight. Everybody's so jammed together, it can mean the difference is massive. You've got those 3 DRS zones, you're sticking together with everybody else. If you can take advantage of that and you can make sure that you're in that DRS range, it's going to be incredibly hard to overtake if you get a good qualifying position. So we'll see how these people who don't tend to qualify well, as you said, well, those who are at the lower end of the points table, let's see where they position themselves for this race. Because we're looking at people like Spliffing. Mumford Place had a very good lap on his opening gambit. That's a 105.3. It's a very good lap from him. And Cameron's on a 105.4. We're looking at people like Championship leader Cian Armed not getting his lap together the first time around a 106.1. So as you were saying, there's a big chance for some of these people to make their way up the grid order before the start of the race.
Yeah, as we just had Colin Mason cross the line, he's done a 5.6, so just showing now one mistake can lose you a lot of time around this track, as Elder unfortunately invalidated. But if I was Elder, I'd make sure, oh never mind, I was going to say I'd make sure I get a lap on the board, just a delta to work off, because that's really what you need early on. You want a delta on the board just to work off, and just so you have it there so you know if you're improving or not.
Yeah, that is a hugely important thing. You need something to compare yourself over. When you go pushing for a lap, if you don't know what your delta times are looking like compared to the others, where you need to improve, where the time can be found, then it's going to be incredibly hard for you to keep going at a substantial pace. You need that delta to look at. You need to know if you're up, if you're down. It could be the difference between a banding and a lap or not. You know, you could save that ERS for the next lap if you needed to. You could turn that off. You could make sure that you got your ERS power for the next lap. So the delta, as you said, massively important for every one of these drivers.
Yeah, massively important, as I believe Spliffin currently on a cooldown lap, potentially just getting himself geared up to go again. But I believe Drofters is on a flying lap coming through the middle sector now, as he looks to be setting a decent middle sector so far, as he's approaching the not the corner. We've got Holston, who's also on another cooldown lap as well. So a lot of guys going down for cooldown laps, but they need to get these flying laps in. But fortunately, this track is so short, they have plenty of time. As Drofters goes up into P4 behind his teammate, as Ethan Ed is actually improving himself up into P2 with a 5 flat. So improvements going there as Mumford Place splits the 2 Robbins drivers.
Another great lap from Mumford Place, but as you said, there's a lot of time in this session considering the length of the track. You know, a lap time 105 is not that much. By the time you get a warm-up lap in, a cool-down lap, you could potentially get 4 runs at this. So you have got the chance, if you do mess up 1 or 2 runs, there's always the potential that you've got that 3rd run or 4th run even that you necessarily wouldn't get at other tracks. So it's all about maximising one of these runs, as Evans Joshua with a 104.851 going to the top of the standings at provisional pole.
Yeah, a fantastic lap time from Evans Joshua there, as Ananda was just crossed the line. He's set a 1.5.1. He's right there alongside his teammate, and that's going to be encouraging for Anand, because obviously in terms of the team championship, Anand has scored the majority of the points for the Dragons, but seeing his teammate so close to him on pace, he's got to be thinking, okay, it's our chance closing on the Robbins here.
It is a fantastic opportunity, and a full credit goes to Mumford Place here for stepping up and supporting his teammate in the battle. I mean, you're looking at the grid down the order now. You got none of the teams are specific. Cam Rules. Fantastic lap there. You know, you're looking at some of the teams. PW Jones there. He's got his teammate is nowhere near him, so this is a great chance now for these teams. If they can get 2 drivers next to each other, this is a massive place where you can score points. So you got the Dragons that are in a very good position right now.
Yep, Dragons in a fantastic position. Obviously we're waiting for a lap time to come in from Elder, because we've got Cam Rules up there in P4. This could be a big race for the Puffins as well. Drofters currently 4 tenths off his teammate, so he's going to be looking to close that gap, and we'll see if he can do it as we go deeper into the session. Elder now to the line. What's this going to be? As a 5.1, he's right behind his teammate, so the Puffins have turned up here tonight as well as the Dragons. It's getting tasty in terms of the team battles we got going on.
It is getting very tasty, and we're looking at it, the consistency of these drivers. I mean, you've got Mumford Place is on a 105.183, and within a tenth of a second of that, you go all the way up to third. So, you know, there's a lot, as you mentioned earlier, that 1/10 of a second, you hit the nail on the head. That 1/10 of a second is massively important around such a short track.
Yeah, as it is only 4 tenths of a second separating first from ninth. That's how close it is around here. Less than half a second separating pretty much the entirety of the top 10.
And it is very nice to see people like Cam Rules, who we don't, as you said, you don't usually see at the top. He's strung together an excellent lap. So this is a big race for him. A very big race indeed. Mumford Place as well. There's a lot of guys throwing their name in the hat for potentially a race win here.
Yep, potentially we could see another race winner. But will we see another pole sitter?
That is a very good question. We've still got 6 minutes left, and these times are just going to keep coming down and down and down. So we're going to see who's going to get that extra little bit of margin, who's going to push that little bit extra to get that pole position.
Well, I'll tell you what, Spliffin has just started his lap. He has his teammate up ahead of him. This could be good. A little bit of a long-range tow as he climbs up the hill towards turn 3.
Yeah, it's massively important. If he can stay within a nice little gap to his teammate, he's going to get a huge benefit from that slipstream. Looking down now, it's a very tidy exit of the corner as well. So at the end of this straight, we'll probably see his teammate peel off just the tiniest bit, hopefully give him a nice clean lap towards the end. It is full commitment down into the braking zone, and this is looking very, very nice and tidy from Spliffin.
Yeah, and of course that is Ethan Ed up ahead of him, his teammate for the pit ponies, as marginally up for Ethan, as I believe with Spliffin he's marginally down, but he can gain this in the final sector if he can hook up the final 2 corners, and the CRE approaches the penultimate corner much more committed through there this time, and through the final corner it's definitely going to be an improvement for Spliffin. I should believe he's going to jump up the order, and he jumps up into P9. And now 4 attempts separate the entirety of the top 10.
I mean, you can't ask for closer racing than this. This is absolutely phenomenal. We're not even in the race yet, and we're seeing these guys put in pedal to the metal, full commitment as we're on board with Cian Arm now. Let's see what he does. Is he on a warm? No, he's coming into the pits, I believe. Yeah, he's abandoned this lap by the looks of it.
Yeah, and that's what we want to see as well when people are coming to the pits. We want to see them following the correct pit lane entry as well. Mainly because it does make it easier for drivers around everyone to see if you're coming into the pits or not, and it can cause an issue in terms of the penultimate corner, because obviously the racing line cuts across the pit lane entry, so if you see someone's going into the pits, you can definitely be a lot more aware to it.
Yeah, it's a huge risk on that last penultimate corner going out pit entry. If you're fully committed to a lap and you're not necessarily 100% conscious that the person ahead is going into the pits, then it could end in disaster. So every driver's got to make sure that they're doing that, and that was a fantastic job there from coming into the pits, making sure you're sticking to that line. So hopefully there would be no incidents like that towards the end of qualifying as the track gets full once again, with hopefully every driver getting one last run in.
Yeah, just under 4 minutes to go in the session is Evans Joshua, who's currently out on top. PW Jones in second place, Ethan Ed in third, and then we have Cam Rules in fourth ahead of his teammate Elder in fifth. Then we've got the 2 Dragons drivers of Cian Arm and Mumford Place in 6th and 7th. Drofters for the Robins down in 8th place. A 10th improvement for Drofters, so, and it can jump them up into the top 5. This is what I mean by a 10th can really mean everything around this track.
It can indeed, and we're looking at, you know, when you've got people like Evans Joshua at the top, your teammates in 8th, this could be vital for the race as well. If Drofters does manage to improve, would you consider an alternative strategy to make sure that, you know, Evans Joshua has the information, that you yourself have the information for the second stint? It's going to be a huge team game around here, I think.
It'll definitely be a massive team game around here, but I don't think any of them will switch strategies around as Cam Rules. He's on the teetering edge of improving on his lap time, and he is using as much of the track as he is allowed for the track limits, and he just couldn't improve, and he was just under 200ths of a second off his previous best time.
Even that as well shows phenomenal consistency. To have 2 laps where you're pedal to the metal, not making a single mistake, separated by 200ths of a second, just shows the commitment that these drivers have to their laps every single time, and it is wonderful to see. And good job from Cam Rules there, making sure he gets out of the way.
Yeah, and that's what we like to see. We like to see people getting out of the way as well of cars on a flying lap, because they don't want to be impeded and end up having to lose their lap because of car not on a flyer, dropping out as J Fatality 3 tenths up. This is front row pace right now from J Fatality. Can he do it for the Swans in the penultimate corner? Oh, he's just drifted out a bit too wide, and that's an invalidation there for J Fatality.
That is massively unlucky, considering the pace that he was showing. That is a cruel end to the lap. As you said, he was looking on front row form there for that lap. It's unfortunate.
Spliffin has gone around for the final corner as well, in behind, and Spliffin out of the session. Cam Rules retiring from the session in the pit lane, as well as we are waiting to see the final laps come in from these drivers. As we're on board with the man who's currently on provisional pole position, Evans Joshua, marginally up in the first sector.
Yeah, an improvement on this time as well would really be a killer to anybody else. I mean, he's going to be one of the first across the line, I believe. So, you know, PW Jones, Ethan Ed, Elder and Arms, they've got to step up their game right now, because if Evans Joshua is going faster, then that means they've got to go extra hard on this lap, and we could see some mistakes.
Yes, we could, as Evans Joshua, he's a 10th up in the middle sector. This is looking good for Evans Joshua, but he gets a little bit too much onto the curve as we got a car around in the middle sector. I believe that might have been an arm there who was around. I believe that was the Dragon's livery I just saw. But Evans Joshua now to the line, and it's going to be a 0.6. That's a 10.5 improvement, and now the gap is 3 tenths, and that is going to be a big task now for PW Jones and Co in behind to try and close up as Elder goes off track there. And Armed, what can he do for the final corner? Can he get himself onto the front row? Can he get himself pole position? No, he can't. He's down in P6 at best, as Drofter's currently down in P8. He's a 10th up in the middle sector, and if he can get a good penultimate and final corner in, he can definitely jump himself up the order here, and this will definitely be good for the Robins, as the checker flag has fallen here in qualifying. Colin Mason goes up into P3, Drofter's up into P4.
Massive improvement from both Colin R. Mason and Drofter's there. That's a huge result there for Colin R. Mason, especially considering how low he was in the order. To put himself up into third is a Herculean effort. Drofter's there coming up as well. That is a great little patch for the Robins there. First and fourth potentially on the grid.
PW Jones, sorry to cut in there, PW Jones coming up to the line now, and he is 2.5 tenths up on his lap time, and he could be challenging pole position, and he does snag it right at the end. PW Jones takes pole position. I believe that's his first pole position as well in this in the F1 split, and we've had 5 different pole sitters in 6 races. Incredible stuff. PW Jones takes pole position, snatches it from Evans Joshua right at the end, and what a lap that was from PW Jones.
Phenomenal effort, leaving it right to the very last 2,000ths of a second, 200, separating PW Jones and Evans Joshua. But to have the composure for that last lap, to hit every single apex, to make sure you're getting all the traction that you need, a phenomenal effort from PW Jones there.
Yeah, absolutely Herculean effort from PW Jones at the end there, as we get the final results in. So it is PW Jones who takes the pole position ahead of Evans Joshua, who joined him on the front row. Colin R. Mason in third, with Drofters in fourth, Ethan Ed in fifth, Cam Rules in sixth, Elder in 7th and Armed in 8th. Mumford plays in 9th and Spliffing round out the top 10. Then we got J Fatality in 11th, Falston in 12th, Hooky in 13th, Larry Wheels in 14th, Beef in 15th, and Manic Mechanic rounding out the back of the grid. 6/10 of a second separating first down to 11th. Very close in qualifying. But before we go into the race, we shall have a word from our sponsors.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth.
We are here for the race. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the 6th race of the Welsh Esports League.
We are reaching crunch time for this championship right now. This is the 6th round, only 2 more left after this, so if you're going to start having a performance, if you're going to have a championship run, now is the time to do it. We're getting loaded in. We will see the warm-up lap and we will see what strategy people have gone on, who will go for soft, who will go for medium, as we look at the cars now as they're about to pull off. This is the warm-up lap, so PW Jones will lead away once again on this warm-up lap. We'll see how hard they work the tyres, how much temperature they do want to get into them. So we're now going to look at it. PW Jones, Evans Joshua, Colin R. Mason, Drofters, Ethan Edge, just a reminder of your top 5 right there. So now we're going to have a look at this soft tyre for PW Jones. Soft tyre for the top 7, actually. A medium for Unarmed in 8th. He's got a lot of work to do. He's starting in a very poor position considering his place in the championship. So he is going to have to make up a lot of ground, and the alternate strategy might be the way to do it for him. Mumford plays on the softs. Spiffing also choosing the medium tyre. J Fatality on the softs, and Hooky on the medium, and everybody else... Sorry, no, that's Fulston on the medium, my apologies. And everybody else there at the back of the grid on the softs. This track is going to be fast. It's going to be furious. We're going to see a lot of action, 3 DRS zones, a lot of overtaking. So let's see what happens on this. So looking now, PW Jones predicted tyre strategy for a one-stop race is lap 6 to 10 for the softs to switch over to the mediums. And we're looking at around lap 12 to 13 for the mediums to the softs. We approach the start now. PW Jones getting a final little bit of tyre temperature, as is Evans Joshua behind him. The start is going to be wholly important here. The DRS trains after lap 2. Remember, lap 2 is when they do start the DRS. So we're going to hope for a clean start. Everybody's going to get in a nice tight gap. We're going to see a lot of overtaking on this track, hopefully. Coming down towards now the start as PW Jones leads his car onto the front row with Evans Joshua alongside him. The launch is going to be massively important for all these drivers. We're looking now down the grid as everybody starts to take their positions, waiting for those 5 red lights. The Robins are in an excellent position here for the Drivers' Championship. Let's have a look. We're going to wait for these 5 lights as everybody forms the grid for the race at Spielberg Red Bull Ring in Austria. We are got lights on 3, 4 and 5. And the lights are out. We are going. PW Jones with a great start. Evans Joshua getting a good start as well. Everybody seems to... Oh, we've got a little bit of an incident further back down the field there. I think I saw a little bit of a crash. We do have Hooky in the wall off the grid, unfortunately. It is a bad start for Hooky, but PW Jones got away very well. Evans Joshua now on the way up the hill, looking up the inside into turn 3. Has he made the move stick? He has not as of yet. PW Jones hanging there around the outside, making sure he keeps the lead. Colin R. Mason tucked behind him, Drofters as well. Ethan Ed with a great start. Cameron is still in 6th, and Elder is in P7, unarmed on that alternative strategy. Remember, he has just lost a place to J Fatality, but it's the long game for him right now. He's got to make sure that he keeps it nice and clean for himself as he slots in behind J Fatality. But PW Jones with an excellent start, 0.4 of a second gap to Evans Joshua, who's got the same gap almost back to Colin R. Mason. Drofters keeping close on the tail of Colin R. Mason. But we're looking at it now. Drofters, he's keeping it very clean. He knows what he's got to do in this race. Everybody knows exactly where they've got to be. But PW Jones extending that gap off the start. 0.5 on the opening lap is a great margin. He has now got to push ahead to try and make that gap 1 second without taking too much time out of his own tyres. He's got to make sure that he keeps that freshness in them. PW Jones leading away. We're looking down the gap now. Elder, J Fatality looking down the order. We're coming up towards turn 3 once again. Next lap, the DRS will be activated. But for now, it's going to be very much a hold station sort of game where everybody is just trying to figure out where the weakness in the person ahead of them is without giving away the weakness to the car behind. Colin R. Mason dropping back a little bit. The gap for PW Jones is looking very good right now. About 6, oscillating between 6 and 8 tenths of a second. So if he can keep that up by the end of this lap, he might be able to break that DRS toe eventually that Evans Joshua will get. But it's going to be back and forth. You've got to make sure that you're within that second. Also, off these DRS straights, you're going to be straight into the next DRS zone. So you have the risk of losing that position straight back. It's going to be an exciting time period at the start of this next lap, as PW Jones has not broken that gap. The medium runners all in a block there, apart from Hookie, who had that awful start, unfortunately. But CN Arms keeping within that DRS range. That's what he's got to do to keep himself in the race. As you can see at the top there, DRS has been enabled as Evans Joshua is looking to take full advantage of this, and he glides past PW Jones up towards turn 3. He's just kept the lead going into the corner. We do have an incident in sector 1 somewhere. It looks like Folsom has lost it going down the back straight. But Evans Joshua taking over the lead, and he's got a significant gap over PW Jones here. Colin R. Mason was not able to take advantage of that slipstream either. But PW Jones struggling to keep on the back as we look. Colin R. Mason trying to dive down the inside. PW Jones keeps the outside line, but the traction here is wholly important. Evans Joshua building that lead up ahead. We're not seeing much swapping so far, but Evans Joshua maximising that first DRS zone, pulling away very well indeed.
Oh, as I am back, and as I come back, side-by-side action between Elder and Ethan for that battle for P6 into the penultimate corner, side-by-side, but Elder able to get that position and maintain P6 ahead of Ethan Ed. Apologies for that, guys. Unfortunately, a little bit of an internet drop connection issue for me there, but I am back, and hopefully I haven't missed too much action, but hopefully Obliterator has been covering it as best as possible.
What we have seen at the start of that last lap, Evans Joshua managed to stay within that DRS and glided up past PW Jones into turn 3. As we look now, this battle with Elder and Ethan Ed is absolutely phenomenal. But look at that, J Fatality taking advantage, full advantage of that inside line that Ethan Ed had to take. Look at down the inside now on Elder as well. J Fatality with a double move. What a move, a pair of moves in fact, using the DRS to its maximum potential. He has just jumped 2 places in 2 straights, and that is an excellent drive from J Fatality.
Elder's trying to come back, and then no, Elder around the outside of turn 6 and 7. I think he's got it done. Elder back up into P6, fantastic stuff. J Fatality, is he going to have a look down into the penultimate corner? I don't think so, as PW Jones into the pits early on, lap 4.
We promised you action, we promised you fantastic racing, and the opening 5 laps of this race, the opening 4 laps, have been absolutely phenomenal. Every driver fully respectful of the other cars, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah, and this track, it does breed good close battling, as we got Unarmed having a look to get a draw alongside Ethan Ed, and he's going to get that move done, and up to the P7 goes Unarmed, and now he's on the back of J Fatality, who's also on the back of Elder, as I believe PW Jones may have just spun it coming up the pit lane, and that is not what you want to see from PW Jones. As soon as he comes out the pits, he's lost the car.
It is not what you want to see at all, and crucially at the front of the race now, we're looking at that gap between Evans Joshua and Colin R. Mason. Colin R. Mason is so vulnerable right now to Drofter and Cameron is behind as well, so Evans Joshua getting that break early on, position.
Yep, as Elder gets through, and so does Unarmed on J Fatality. Once again, as Unarmed around the outside, as we see Elder and J Fatality peel off into the pits. Unarmed is going to climb his way up the order. Drofter is coming into the pits as well from the front line, so he's looking to get an undercut here on Colin, who I believe stayed up. No, he's also into the pits as well, so the undercut could play beneficial for these guys to try and close up to Evans Joshua a bit.
It could be massive on this track, and especially all these guys coming into the pit now, they could still form a DRS train coming out, maximising the speed for every single one of them. But as we saw or we didn't see, but you said PW Jones losing the car, coming out of the pits, very unfortunate, but that does play into the hands of people like C Unarmed. You know, that championship battle where we thought C Unarmed had a very bad qualifying, he needed something in this race to re-galvanise him, to make sure he could get maximum points, and an incident like that for PW Jones is exactly what C Unarmed needs in terms of the title picture.
Yeah, exactly what he needs, but it's going to be one thing to see that happen. It's going to be another thing for Unarmed to keep the composure throughout the race and not make any mistakes. He's currently in a bit of no man's land right now, on his own as the front two come into the pit, so Unarmed will be leading this race. Now it's a question of, can Unarmed stay composed enough now to maintain this lead? Will we see any mistakes from the man in the race lead, the Dragons driver, C Unarmed?
Anik Mechanic as well, the last of the soft runners out there in P2 right now. That is wonderful to see, but you're looking down the grid now, Evans Joshua spiffing on the back of him could put a spanner in the works. If Spiffing decides to go for an overtake, then that could cost Evans Joshua time later on in the race. Right now, it's looking very, very good for the Robins. It is looking fantastic.
It's looking fantastic for the Robins. Cam Rules has actually managed to split Colin and Drofter, so now Colin has to get through on Cam Rules if he wants to try and get onto the back of Drofters once again. But Drofters looks to be closing in on Spliffin enough, and Spliffin on those mediums, he's been on them since the start. Those tyres are not going to be able to match these fresh medium tyres right now.
They are not, no, and Drofters is getting into a perfect position. The unfortunate thing for Drofters right now is that Spiffling does still have that DRS on Evans Joshua. But we're looking further down the field again. J Fatality, 0.5 seconds behind Colin R. Mason. There could be some action potentially there very, very soon.
Yeah, definitely could be some action going on. There's it looks like Spliffin didn't have the best of runs out of turn 1, so he's under pressure from Drofters. I think we could potentially see a bit of VRS usage and DRS down in towards turn 4 for Drofters, and yet he is on the ERS, and he's going to draw alongside Spliffin around the outside. Should get us done before the braking zone, and yes he does, and he's up in the P4.
That's a lovely little move from Drofters there, just to make sure that he kept it nice and clean. He's not in a race with Spliffing right now, he's on an alternate strategy, so Drofters making sure that he gets that pass done nice and early so he can push on now and maybe potentially catch up to Evans Joshua, who is not too far in front of him. Was that 0.7 of a second?
Yeah, Evans Joshua on the first laps hasn't done the best in terms of pulling away, but Drofters made that undercut work to his advantage, and he is on the back of his teammate. Could we see another 1-2 finish for the Robins here?
It's looking very plausible indeed. Drofters and Evans Joshua, they've got a nice little gap now back to Cam Rules. They've got a buffer zone in Spliffing as well, so if they can pull away here and they can make these tyres work straight off the rip, they are going to be in a fantastic position, as you said, to get that 1-2.
And now Evans Joshua on the back of Fulston. Fulston hasn't pitted yet, and he is going to be under pressure from the net race leader and the net P2 driver.
We're looking down all the time strats as well. We're looking all the way down the grid. Look at how close the action is, how many battles there are. This is phenomenal. The racing around here, as we said, is so tight. The gaps are minimal, and we're getting a lot of overtakes and a lot of great racing from all of these drivers.
Right now I'm currently looking at Cam Rules on the back of Spliffin. Obviously Spliffin is not in the same race as Cam Rules, but is he going to be able to put up a fight? No, he's not, as Fulston, I believe, it's just peeled off into the pits getting out of the way, but Evans Joshua has actually dropped behind Drofter, so I wonder if there was anything.
Yes, as Evans Joshua turned in on the apex, it was an issue that Fulston was going into the pits. Unfortunately, Evans Joshua had to pull out of the corner, and Drofters swept around the outside, or down the inside of him, sorry, and has taken that position. So Drofters in a very handy position right now, inheriting the race lead from his teammate.
Yeah, and we'll see if they'll trade that position back, but what that has done is brought Cam Rules right back into play, because that mistake from Evans Joshua has meant that Cam Rules now has DRS on these two.
And we just saw Mumford run into the back of Elder there. That was very unfortunate. Went down to the braking zone. excess speed from potentially the DRS, trying to hit and overtake. Unfortunate bit of contact there. I wonder if Mumford has any damage to that front wing.
We shall see in the middle sector. If he does have damage, he will lose time here, but it doesn't look like it, as it looks like potentially maybe some light green wing damage here for Mumford, but it doesn't look like it'll hinder him too much. So Mumford, I think, has got away with one right there. But back up towards the front, obviously J Fatality on the back of Colin R. Mason for P5. This is big because obviously the Pirates and the Swans are scrapping it out in the team championship as well, and these two, they had a fantastic battle in many races that have gone on so far in this championship, and more often than not it's been a mistake that has separated them.
It has, and it's just getting very interesting now. The Robins party may not have started yet. It may have started too soon, because the Puffins, Cam Rules has closed right up on these two. The top three separated by 0.8 of a second. Cam Rules is having a fantastic race. He's kept his nose clean. He's been going under the radar, catching up with these two very slowly, bit by bit. And he has played himself not only into a podium position right now, net after unarmed pits, he has played himself into a race win here. Can he get past, first of all, Evans Joshua? Can he make this extra pace that he's got count right now?
Well, this will be huge for the Puffins and for Cam Rules if he can pull this off. He's on the back of Evans Joshua. The question is, can he get a good enough run that he can have a look to try and overtake one of the Robins drivers and set up the other Robins driver for the net race lead. 9.7 seconds is the gap between Drofters and Unarmed. So Unarmed will come out, I believe he'll come out ahead of Elders. Potentially could come out actually behind Mumford, but he should definitely be out ahead of Ethan in ninth place.
He should, and we were talking earlier about the effect of the DRS train around this track is bringing everybody into contention, from J Fatality right up to Drofters. That little battle there is about 4 seconds separating 5 drivers. So all of these guys, any mistakes would be capitalised upon. Any one of these drivers can still win this race. But we're looking at Evans Joshua defending very well around this track, keeping Cam Rules at bay. But Colin R. Mason is right on Cam Rules' tail, and J Fatality is right up there as well. Oh, J Fatality with a 5. Is that a 3 second time penalty?
3 second time penalty for track extension, as Unarmed is in the pits, and you'll see where he'll come out to. Fulston, I believe, has lost it in the middle sector as well. He's dropping down the order. Let's see where Unarmed comes out. But I believe he's going to come out. Oh, he's just going to be ahead of Elder and Mumford, and that's big for Unarmed, because now he's got nothing but fresh air ahead of him to try and close up to these guys.
He has indeed. He is going to be...
Drofters makes a mistake, and now Evans Joshua gets the move down, and here goes Cam Rules as well. Drofters making one mistake and gets swamped by 2 drivers.
This is exactly what I was mentioning a second ago. That it's almost on the inside there from Cam Rules, but one mistake can cost you absolutely everything. Drofters looked in control. He was keeping his teammate at bay, but now he's lost 2 positions. Can he get those back? But Cam Rules looking in a very good position right now, potentially to take a race win. But I'm not counting any of these drivers at the front out.
Yeah, Cam Rules performing very well, and this is why we're saying that Austria can throw up some big surprises. It's one of those tracks where even if you don't have the raw pace around a lot of tracks, you can get a fantastic result here, and Cam Rules is proving that to be correct right now. Obviously we've got Malik Mechanic down there in P10, and he's looking for his first points of the series so far, so this will be big for Malik Mechanic as well if he can hold on to P10.
It would be massive, and every little point will help in the team game. But we're looking, as we come up the hill now, Colin R. Mason looking to get past Drofters as well now. He's... contact! Cam Rules getting hit a tiny bit there by Drofters. That has cost him quite a bit of time, and that has broken the DRS range. Evans Joshua now escaping. Is that Wow, this is a real melting pot right now. Every driver is driving to the limit, but J Fatality going for a second position again. Is this a second double overtake? He's going to... No.
Drofter is able to hold the inside, and he carries the speed well there, and he's able to hold on to P3. But, J Fatality gets a little bit onto the curb, and that's going to allow Colin R. Mason to come back at him. Just side by side, in towards the penultimate corner. Colin will have the outside, J Fatality will have the inside. Swooping around the outside, bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Colin's around, so's J Fatality.
Oh, disaster for the pair of them. That is absolute nightmarish situation. Both drivers pushing to the limit, both going around. But that has opened up the door for Sion Arm now, who has to overtake 2 less people. If he can catch up to the front runners, we've got 3 laps left. It's a big gap, 5.3 seconds. If he can make it work, the only thing he's got working against him is the other drivers do have DRS, but Sion Arm potentially can make up that time if he puts his foot down. But Evans Joshua with a 6/10 gap now to Cam Rules. Cam Rules has closed that gap back in very well after the little incident at turn 3 last lap.
Yep, Cam Rules potentially looking at a race when your Elder, his teammate, is getting overtaken by Mumford Place, and this is looking like a good scrap going on right now between Mumford Place and Elder. The Dragons versus the Puffins here tonight, as it looks like the Robins and Cam Rules up top in a bit of their own battle. And he is closing in, but I don't think he's closing in quick enough.
He's not. The delta has only dropped by 0.1 of a second this lap. It looks like Unarmed left it a little bit too late for a charge, but as I said, these cars up ahead, they've got 3 DRS.
Oh, Jay Vitality's off, and he's out of the race.
Oh, that's a massive incident coming out of the last corner. How that's been dropped there, maybe just a little bit of grass on the tyre, anything could have contributed to that. Will we see a safety car? It's a little bit late in the race, it could be a VSC potentially. Sector 3 still in the yellows.
Bit too late for a safety car, I think lap 16 of 18. I don't think we'll see one now, but Jay Fatality, I was on board with him. I saw what happened. He just got onto the inside curve in the final corner just a little bit too much, and he lost the car. Spliffing, I guess he overtake Dunn, and he's up into P9. Mechanic still holding on to a point here in the race, and that is going to be huge for him. Big boost in confidence for Mechanic if he can get that point.
Especially, it's looking like he could be on for 2 points here, because the way he's closed up onto the back of Spliffing, he's only 0.3 of a second behind him. That can be 1 DRS zone, 1 mistake. Manic Mechanic is in a good position here to get 2 points, maybe even more if the mistake happens ahead of him. But we're back to the front of the field now. Cam Rules still within that 0.3 of a second. We've had an incident in sector 2 and 3 as well.
Spliffing's going around. Mechanic's back through. And now we've got Folston and PW Jones getting past Spliffing as well. So PW Jones could potentially salvage a point here, because he's on the back of Folston. He's got Spliffing and he's got Spliffing and Beaver. No, PW Jones is around.
Oh, PW Jones having a nightmare race right now. At the top of the standings in the Drivers' Championship, he has had a disaster. No points looking like going to be scored for him today, and we're looking at Cian Armed in 4th. Who's got the fastest lap right now, do we know?
I can have a quick look. The fastest lap is currently PW Jones, but he's outside the top 10, so the fastest lap point won't be awarded to anyone.
Oh, that is an absolute disaster. He was looking like he was about to pick up a couple of points as well, potentially. But PW Jones having, after such a good first race, a nightmarish second race.
And unfortunately for PW Jones, sometimes that is how it does go. Right now we're on the final lap of the race. Cam Rules, Evans Joshua, Drofters. Any one of these three can take the race win here. But can Cam Rules launch an attack here for the race lead? He's having a look at the inside. He's outbraking Evans Joshua down into his turn 3. Oh, he just stuck his nose in a bit too much there. And Drofters gets through.
Oh, and the Robins are back on for their 1-2. It seemed unlikely just 2 turns ago, but they are back on for their 1-2. I believe Drofters is a bit too far back now to make a move on Evans Joshua, but disaster there for Cam Rules. Just a little bit too much of an overcommit as we jump on board with Conor Mason now looking at Elder. Is he going to try and go around the outside here? It's a very bold move. Both drivers keeping it nice and clean, but he's got the nice traction. Will he get past? He's got the inside line for the next 2 turns. Can he make it stick? He has got through, but Elder holding it around the outside. This is phenomenal stuff.
Yep, on the final lap of the race, Conor Mason, Elder side by side, keeping it all cool, calm and composed. And Conor Mason will jump ahead as we got Evans Joshua taking victory ahead of Drofters in second place. Cam Rules picks up a podium for the Puffins. Cian Armed in 4th. Mumford Plays in 5th. What a result for the Dragons that is. As Ethan Ed will jump up into 6th ahead of Conor Mason. Elder in 8th. Manic Mechanic picking up 2 points, and that is his first points of the series. Fantastic there from Manic Mechanic. Folston, he's lost it in the final corner.
Oh, that is a disaster. Oh, Spliffy's got through. Spliffing has gone through, and Beef has got through as well. What happened? That is so unlucky from Folston. He only needed to get about 150 yards more, and he has blown it on the last corner. That is so unlucky.
Yeah, that was incredibly unlucky there, but it is what it is for Folston. The final corner, this is why you can never lose concentration until you cross that line, until you see that checkered flag. Manic Mechanic picks up the in-game driver of the day, and honestly, 2 points gained for Manic Mechanic. I actually back that vote for driver of the day.
I back that vote as well. That was a great effort from Manic Mechanic. He's stepped up. He's got points on the board for his team, and it doesn't matter whether it's a point, 2 points. Down at that last race of the season, it could mean all the difference for them.
Yes, it could, but that man on the top step of the podium, Evans Joshua, and I believe it's 6 different winners now in 6 different races.
That is not a testament to the talent that is in it.
5 different winners in 6 races.
That is still a phenomenal stat. If that's not testament to how close and how great these drivers are in this championship, I don't know what is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll run you through the order. It is Evans Joshua who takes victory ahead of his teammate Droftus. It's another 1-2 for the Robins. It's looking pretty ominous in terms of that team championship. Cam Rules with the podium. Fantastic result for him and the Puffins. C Unarmed in 4th with Mumford Place in 5th. Good result for the Dragons. Ethan Ed in 6th. Colonel Mason 7th. Elder in 8th. Manic Mechanic with his first points in 9th place. And Spliffin getting that final points paying position in 10th. PW Jones in 11th with Folston crashing out at the end, losing out on the points. Beef and Larry Wheels, our remaining finishers, and then I believe our 2 non-finishers were I didn't quite see at the end. I can't lie.
I mean, that was incredibly tight action across both races, specifically in Austria. Phenomenal job from all those drivers for keeping it nice and clean. No major incidents. Every driver pushing to the maximum, respecting each other's space and the rules entirely. I am thoroughly impressed, and I am so thrilled that we had these 2 races to cast tonight.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Fantastic stuff from the guys racing tonight. Of course, next week, the final week of F1 in the Welsh Esports League, and we go to 2 very iconic circuits in Silverstone and Brazil. So 2 very iconic tracks, 2 tracks where we could see the drivers, and well, we'll definitely see the drivers' championship decided at one of those tracks. Will we see the constructors or the team championship decided at the first of the 2 races? That's going to be the question.
It is going to be a huge question, but I'm hoping for a final day shootout between these teams. It's going to be a phenomenal night of action next week. Every driver is going to be pushing to the limit. We're going to see how it plays out tactically with those at the top of the standings, whether they're going to want to push or whether they're going to hold position for their titles. But it's going to be a fantastic night of action, and I cannot wait to see it happen.
And of course, a big thank you to all the drivers that participate in the racing tonight. It was a great spectacle. And of course, a shout out to the sponsors, Apprenticeships. I have been Mike. He has been Obliterator, and we shall catch you next week for the final rounds of the Welsh Esports League F1 split. Until then, guys, good night.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice. A genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis. Dewis doeth.